So, folks, if we seem a bit down today, it's because this is, of course, the 1 year anniversary of ordinary people walking into a government building and hanging out in there for a few hours. And I don't know, Russell, how are you holding up this January 6th?
I'm hysterical.
Yeah, we really needed to hear some comforting words from our president and vice president. And, they were kind enough to grace us this morning with some wonderful
That's the only thing
wisdom
getting me
and
through the
sentiments.
day.
Yeah, well, we should share this with our audience because we know you guys are all struggling out there. This is a tough day for all of us. And so here is Vice President Kamala Harris.
Certain dates echo throughout history, including dates that instantly remind all who have lived through them where they were and what they were doing when our democracy came under assault. Dates that occupy not only a place on our calendars, but a place in our collective memory. December 7th, 1941. September 11th, 2001, and January 6th, 2021.
Yeah, she's right. I mean, I personally will never forget where I was when I found out that a mob of people had been let into the Capitol building and hung out inside and chanted and smoked weed and took selfies in Nancy Pelosi's office. That one guy went into Nancy Pelosi's office and sat at her desk, and he didn't even have a check on him. He didn't even bring any money with him.
Yeah.
I mean, the gall to walk into the office of the Speaker of the House.
A stock tip.
Right. Nothing. Not a stock tip, not a donation from some not-for-profit or for-profit organization, nothing. Not even cash.
Kind of like the end of Dawn of the Dead where they overrun the ball.
Yeah. I mean, to walk into the office of the Speaker of the House, an ordinary citizen, and not even have any money on you is just, I mean.
Only.
And that guy only got, I think, a year in jail, and they let him out early. I mean, he should get, you have wife beaters who are in jail for 5, 6, 7 years for like assaulting their wives with a frying pan. And, their wives are just ordinary people. We're talking about the Speaker of the House. We're talking about sitting at her desk for 10 to 12 minutes, taking a selfie, smiling. Again, no money to give her. He didn't leave a check, didn't even leave $100 bill in the drawer, nothing. Just came in there, sat at her desk, took a selfie, walked out. He gets a year and gets out early for good behavior.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of justice?
Should have done 10. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was Kamala Harris. Let's go to now the Commander-in-Chief, the heavy hitter, really bringing home what we need here. Here's Joe Biden.
Madam Vice President, my fellow Americans, to state the obvious, 1 year ago today, in this sacred place, democracy was attacked. We must be absolutely clear about what is true and what is a lie. And here's the truth. The former President of the United States of America has created and spread a web of lies about the 2020 election. For the first time in our history, a president had not just lost an election, he tried to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. We saw with our own eyes. Rioters menaced these halls, threatening the life of the Speaker of the House, literally erecting gallows to hang the Vice President of the United States of America. They weren't looking to uphold a free and fair election. They were looking to overturn one. They weren't looking to save the cause of America. They were looking to subvert the Constitution. I did not seek this fight brought to this Capitol 1 year ago today, but I will not shrink from it either. I will stand in this breach. I will defend this nation, and I will allow no one to place a dagger at the throat of democracy.
You will allow no one to place a dagger at the throat of democracy, except, of course, obviously, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin. You know, they can, you know, but whatever. This is not a day for politics. This is a day to rise above that, you know.
The banks that hold the student loans.
Yeah, but you listen. This is, did you not hear what the vice president said? This is not a day for that. This is the day. This is like December 7th, 1941, September 11th, 2001. If while the Twin Towers were coming down, you would sit there talking about the hanging Chads and the Supreme Court and everything like that? No. Show some goddamn respect.
Yeah.
All right. Jesus.
I mean,
it's all about politics with you all the time.
Look,
we can't just have a somber day of remembrance here.
You know, I'll say this. You know, we both have a certain contempt for the way that liberals focused in on the pearl clutching and not enough on what motivated it and the economic circumstances. To their credit, what was that? The Washington Post that did that article that looked into the finances of the
of the rioters.
To, you know, give it credit where credit is due. But you know, I mean, that's a little complicated for the liberal mind. So, you know, they just kind of ignored that part of it. But hey, you know, we're doing an interview tomorrow with Stephen March, who has a book coming out. Basically, his thesis is that we're already in a civil war. And yeah, like, we're reacting to the liberal reaction. Does it signify something? Of course it does. The system is coming apart. The credibility of the system is coming apart. I remember, you know, I was a kid, and the first time I went to the Capitol, I took out a marker and I tagged on it. And you know, maybe a year or two after that, I told a friend of mine's father that I had done that, and he gave me a whole speech about respecting Capitol. This guy was a former Marine. You don't do that because that is a symbol of our government and our people, and that's why you don't riot on the building. That guy would have been one of the rioters now. That guy would have been he would have been there on 1/6.
Well, the thing that struck me about this too is that
our institute, it does mean something. What it means is our institutions have lost all credibility, particularly with the kind of people who were the most invested in patriotism and belief in those institutions.
Oh, sure thing. And the thing that I found funny about this is that you have Biden and Harris, both of whose poll numbers are just through the floor. I mean, they are just cratering with no sign of reversal.
I thought it was an interesting choice giving her a speech. It feels like got to try to rehabilitate her.
Well, they feel like this
is a bitch to push her out. Like,
they feel like this is a lob ball right down the middle. They feel like this is an opportunity. This is what I found funny about Biden and Harris going up there, is that Democrats and surely their team felt like this was an opportunity to put them up there and give them a mission accomplished moment, give them a very presidential moment where Joe Biden is up there so pathetically. I did not pick this fight, but I will not shrink from it. Look. Yeah, I just saw it. Stupid up there. Order is there. But he says, I will not shrink from this fight. You know, he's clearly just trying to milk this moment to look as, you know, presidential with a capital P as he possibly can, in the hopes that this will be some sort of show of strength, that it'll read as a strong leader stepping up to the task of being commander-in-chief, saying, I will not shrink from what is mostly an imaginary fight right now. There's not people in the Capitol right now. This is not a time of war right now, at least in the way that speech would suggest it is. And so it's just so pathetic. It's just really, really pathetic. And you talk about, who speaks to only half the country and who speaks to, like, the only people who are going to watch that speech and think, oh, thank God Joe Biden is president, is people who are already of the opinion that, oh, thank God Joe Biden is president, because it's only playing to the people who are still traumatized by what was really little more than just a lit rally.
Well, that's where I would argue it is more than that. I mean, what went on with the police, and that's one of the things that our upcoming guest points out in his article and presumably in his book as well. Look, a lot of these, pro-Trump kind of people, I grew up with them, man. A lot of those people become police. A lot of those people go into the military. So it's unclear. I mean, actually, I would say it is pretty clear, with what they're doing in certain states with throwing vote counts and decisions about that into the partisan legislatures. The police forces, the military, they're not gonna defend democracy. Like, you have so many of the people in those services, not all of them, but I would say a majority of them are more likely to be Trump supporters.
Sure. I mean, but you're right. Yeah. And when I say, it was a lit rally, what I mean is it was basically a primal scream. That definitely got out of hand when the Capitol Police let them into the building. But Mike Pence assured Donald Trump the night before, as is coming out now in these text exchanges and as evidence unfolds, that, he wasn't going to reverse the vote count. He wasn't going to not certify the votes. This was just another emotional expression of a very primal rage that has come to really define the Trump base in a number of ways. And so, that's sort of what I mean by that in terms of like what the implications are for quote unquote democracy. I mean, again, Biden saying this was a dagger through the heart of democracy. That's a fucking joke. The dagger through the heart of democracy is the corporate money that these guys have let infiltrate our political system, which creates the conditions of an immiserated population. And shit like this is bound to happen under those circumstances. And so what is this democracy that we are talking about? Basically, democracy, because I saw, what's his name? Jamal Bowman put out a tweet that that says, some of us are capitalists, some of us are socialists, some of us are Democrats, some of us are Republicans, some of us are moderates, some of us are progressives, but we all should be able to agree that democracy is better than fascism. And it's like, well, no, not necessarily, given what you just said. What is democracy and capitalism? What is that mix? That mix is what we're living with right now. We're living in a capitalist democracy. And basically what democracy under capitalism means is that people are free to pursue a virtually infinite amount of wealth. And the very few who are able to get very rich then bribe the government into writing the rules in their favor. And everyone else scrounges and struggles and suffers. And so if that's what capitalist democracy is, if that's what this democracy is, then I'm sorry, I'm not too impressed. And I don't feel much of a need to
and you really don't have a functioning democracy either. Like, the democracy part of it is not really.
Well, right. I mean, you could argue the democracy part of it is rendered moot, but it is a democracy. I mean,
the voting is the. Yeah, but that's like Rome was a republic after Caesar,
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, but a thing is what it is. And that's what American democracy is right now. And is it worth defending in its current form? I would argue not really.
Well, yeah. I mean, just the electoral college makes it not really a democracy. It's just not a democracy. I mean, the majority doesn't rule. And not only that, because of the way that special interests have captured the government, 90% of people are for gun reform. Look, I mean, this is America. Americans don't want what they have in Australia, where basically they had one school shooting and they took all the guns away. You could never do that in America. Most Americans want to be able to buy guns, but 90% of us are for more regulations on it.
Right, right.
So we don't get it. We don't get it. So how is that a democracy? That's not a democracy. When the majority want things and they don't get it repeatedly, how is that a democracy? So the two parties control who you're able to vote for. They control what options you have, and you can have the fish or you can have the chicken. Tofu is not on the menu. You can't have that. So it doesn't matter if the majority of people want tofu, not that that would ever happen, but it's not, it doesn't matter if the majority want a third option, let's say, that will never be presented to you. I mean, that's why Bernie Sanders had to be stopped. They couldn't let you have a third option. They couldn't let you have an option that was not the usual chicken or fish option. Even, we talk about Donald Trump. I mean, in all the ways that matter, they had Trump locked down. He gave them their tax cuts for the rich. Like he wasn't a threat to their power. Not really. He gave them everything.
He was just an embarrassment. He wasn't really a threat.
He gave them their judges. Like he wasn't,
No.
He wasn't a real populist. Steve Bannon was. And if Trump's ego had been such that he could have tolerated Bannon as his rove, I'm pretty convinced that he'd be doing his second term right now.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have needed to have the gallows out for Mike Pence on January 6th. Anyway, we both have candlelit vigils that we have to get to. I know. So
Yes.
We have to get bundled up and head out. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe wherever you saw it, on YouTube, on Rumble, or on Facebook. We have channels on all three of those platforms. Also, consider helping us create more content by becoming a member at patreon.com/do-dissidents or on Facebook, where you can become a supporter right through our Facebook page and get bonus content every week, as well as call-in access to our live stream shows. Thank you very much for your continued support.